Hey everyone, Kelly here, and today I'm going to take you through the process of installing MBRP's long tube headers and race catback exhaust system here. So as you can see here, I got my 2017 Mustang GT. We're going to go through the whole process of removing and installing the headers and the catback exhaust system today. So without further delay, let's just get right into the video. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I'm all set up here to start taking out the catback exhaust here. So I don't think there's going to be anything new here really for anyone to see. But let's just go through it here real quick. So it definitely helps if you have someone to give you a hand. Unfortunately here I'm by myself today, but I do have a few stands and whatnot to give me a hand. So if you look at the back of both of the rear mufflers, there's going to be hangers right there. So there you see the hanger slides through the rubber. You can definitely slip those out. I kind of feel that it's a little bit easier just to actually unbolt it. It's a tiny bit more work, but you know, I think it helps. That way when you're not fighting with the tips and, you know, roughing them around the valance there or whatever. So because sometimes you got to really tip it and rock it you know, excessively sometimes to get them out. If you do pull them out there, the one thing you can do is spray some lube in here, right in here, some silicone spray or whatever, just to help them slide out. But for me, I'm going to unbolt the 13s. So on the other side as well, there you can see them right there, just right there and just right there. So that's no big deal. Then what you'll want to do is the center brackets. We will undo those. The nice thing is there is a hook on top of each of them. That way when you unbolt them, it won't fall down right away. One other thing I might want to add to it, of course, there we got the big the box. These bolts here need to be undone. Depending on the age of your vehicle, you know, these could be quite rusty. You have to fight with them. So most definitely I would recommend before you take them apart, let's wire brush these real good. Make sure those are nice and clean, threads are nice and clean, and then we're going to go ahead and give them a good spray. If you think they're quite rusty, you could always pre-spray them, you know, a day ahead, a couple of times overnight or whatever, you know, in case you don't have a torch or something to heat these up. You know, if they're stuck, of course, a torch is obviously going to be the way to get that done. So let's go ahead and let's fight this exhaust off real quick. So next here, we're going to want to get the stock clamps back. So obviously if you have you know, an aftermarket catback, it'll be slightly different. But on the factory ones, they have the lock tabs there like I noted in the picture there. So just put the screwdriver in there and just pry it back a little bit and then slide the clamps back onto the exhaust there. It should come apart fairly easily, but you know, if it's stuck on you, you know, you can definitely undo those nuts, you know, completely and bend or pry the clamp completely wide open, and it should come apart for you there. Well, there it is on the ground. It's definitely a hassle trying to do it up in the air by yourself. You know, laying on the ground actually with a couple of jack stands and a jack, definitely would be safer if you were a one-man show. Doing it up in the air here like I was, definitely a little sketchy. That piece is pretty heavy and pretty long and wide to hold with one guy here. So anyways, we got it apart. Of course, we're going to take off these hangers and reuse them on the new catback. And obviously that one and that one there as well. We're going to reinstall those at the same time when we put the new exhaust in. So there she is, all removed. All right, so we got the catback out now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the passenger side. We're going to go ahead and remove this passenger side cat. Let's just get it out of the way so we can move on. So what you'll want to do here is just go up in right up in here and squeeze your O2 sensor plug and pull that off, and we'll just quickly route that out down. There it's inside. So what we're going to find next here is that we're going to have two bolts basically. So this top one is a little bit of a struggle to get to, so what I went ahead and done here is I got the socket swivel, and I've got a long extension, and I ran that all the way up into the engine bay basically, and we're going to get that from up on top. Leave this nut on here for now, we'll get that after. If we undo this one first and go up top and undo this nut, then your exhaust is going to fall on the ground. You know, not the end of the world, but we don't want to do that. So let's just go ahead and go up top, and we'll get this one undone. At the same time, since we were undoing that nut for the passenger side cat, we may as well disconnect the battery. So we're going to be taking the starter out, obviously. So we'll undo these ridiculous little clips here that are holding. Just kind of turn and pull them out. I noticed this one is here as well. I'll just pull that out, and this other last one here. Then we'll go ahead and just lift the battery cover up and off if no one's done that before. Pretty simple. And then last but not least, we will disconnect the battery there, and I grabbed the wrong socket. All right, there we go. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong socket. So we'll just go ahead and undo this 10 right here on the negative side, obviously. Red one's the positive. Loosen that off, and then we should be able to just work this up. Most people will just place this off to the side. That's great, no big deal on this car, but sometimes even you know, some other vehicles, I even like to go a step further and actually just cover up the negative terminal. On this one, it won't really matter. But you know, if I were somewhere else and it was pinned over to the side and it happened to slip over, you know, if it was open, it may touch. So won't matter here, but good tip for maybe another vehicle. All right, so we got the battery disconnected. We got the upper bolt that we did from up top. Now we'll just get that bottom one there. Just with one wrench here, I think it's a little bit tight. Oh, not too bad, but you could always do a double wrench on there and push it to get it undone. It should be loose now, so we'll go ahead and work this off. A ratchet wrench would probably be ideal here. You can see the load on the cat here as it comes down. So we're just going to work this off here slowly. I think maybe I'll just switch over to a ratchet wrench here real quick. All right, so I got my ratchet wrench here, and let's just work this off here real quick. Now, hopefully if you're doing this, your bolts aren't going to be too rusty or too tight, but if they are, you'll have to just fight them off. You know, use a torch, heat them up if you need to. Unfortunately, if you don't have one and they're seized, yeah, you'll just have to try and figure it out. All right, so next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the starter off. What we're going to have here is a 10 mil bolt here for the signal wire, and then pull this cap off, and we're going to have a 13 for the main power wire, and then two 10 mils holding it down. So we got one here and then one just above right here where you can't see. So let's go ahead and get those undone. Of course, we got the battery already disconnected. Don't want to do this live, so we'll go ahead and just spin this small 10 off right here for the signal wire. Okay, no problem. We'll just slide the wire off there. Just kind of tuck it out of the way. And next we will go ahead and get the main power wire. This one here is a 13. And same thing, just go ahead and spin that one off there real quick. Okay, we got the nut out of the way, and we'll just, same thing, we'll just kind of pull that down out of the way. Maybe we can just kind of tuck it under there. There we go. And last but not least, let's go ahead and undo the 210s. So just kind of feel up top here with your finger. It's actually right here above the solenoid, so that's not too bad. We'll grab a 10 with an extension. That one's not too tight. And we'll just spin that nut out there, our bolt out as well. And then we got the bottom one here as well. Well, That one's out. And it looks like we have a third one as well. So I will just have to feel up there and try and find that one. Yeah, there it is right there. Now I may actually just put this one back in here a little bit. That way when that one's, top one's undone, it's not gonna fall off on me in case I can't find it or fight it out. So there we go. Top 10. And it's a little bit in the way, so I might need to get myself a little bit of a swivel there. Okay, so we got a 10 with a swivel on there, and just feel for that. You can feel where it is. A little bit tricky, but you can feel where it is. And we'll crack that one loose. And I'm actually able to just spin it out by fingers here. No big deal. All right, so I got that one out. And we'll take the bottom one out. And the starter now basically should be loose. Let's just give it a quick wiggle. And there we have it. It is out. So on to the next step. Let's have a look. All right, so next we're going to be working here on the passenger side engine mount bracket. So right up at the top here, I've already placed my socket on there. I've actually have double swivels on there. I'll take a picture and show you exactly what I've got up there. So I believe that was a 15 mil up there. I'm going to also do that from the upper engine bay. Then directly after that, we're going to be doing these 13s here. So we got one here, 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 and then just one right above here where you can't see. Of course, before we do all that, we'll have to jack up the motor and whatnot. But for now, let's go ahead and start and get this top bolt. Of course, on the other side, we do have one as well, just sort of up above where the light is, just right up there, a little bit dark on this side. I don't have as good lighting. And then we are going to be talking about the steering shaft. So while we're up at the top, we're going to go ahead and lock the steering wheel, but I'll get back to you on that one. So just here on the driver's side as well, I haven't removed my airbox yet or anything like that, but I think I will be once I get to the header on this side. But if we just sort of look down, right down in there, we can see the engine mount nut there. So we're going to go ahead and slide the socket down there with the extension, and we're going to go ahead and undo those. And if we actually look just to sort of down there, we can see that bolt, and we can see that bolt there for the actual mount. I probably will end up by getting those out at the same time as well, and we'll double check that on the passenger side as well, because if they're accessible from the top with a gun, it would definitely be a lot easier than working them by ratchet from underneath. From the other videos I've seen, there seems to be a lot of Loctite on those bolts, and they come out very hard, so we will definitely try and get those by air tools if possible. So there we have it. We have the bolt the extension just running down there like that, right onto the nut there. Should be quite easy to get from the top there. All right, so one thing worth noting here is that since we're up here, we were gonna secure the steering wheel, because the ignitions or the battery's undone, the steering wheel won't lock, so it will just turn on its own. Now when we're undoing the steering shaft, the one thing we don't want to happen is we don't want the steering wheel to turn at all. Back in your steering column is a device called clock spring or spiral cable, generally known as, and if this wheel turns more than one time, or you accidentally, who knows what happens, it gets turned somehow and it gets out of sequence, that clock spring can break back there. It's a device for the airbag for the steering wheel controls. You definitely don't want that. So sort of did what tow truck guys do usually, and I just looped the seatbelt through the wheel and just sort of got it firm in there, and that should hold it there. You can bungee cord it down to your gas pedal or your brake pedal, whatever you want to do. Just it's a good idea. This might be a little bit overkill, but it is worth noting to do something just sort of like this. Okay, so we're back here on the passenger side. So like I was saying there on the driver's side, we can see the two engine mount bolts, that one there, that one just right down there. So we're going to go ahead and definitely get those from air or with air tools up here from up top. Definitely a lot easier than fighting it down below with you know, wrenches and ratchets. So definitely makes it a little bit easier from here. So I'll go ahead and get that set up, and we'll get those pulled out here. Well, at least I should say we're only going to take out the driver's passenger side currently right now. All right, so we got the passenger side motor mount nut and bolt done, and we also got the driver's side engine mount nut undone only. We got the steering wheel locked. Next thing you know, we're gonna pull the steering shaft bolt out here. So as you can see, what I've done here is I did mark it. It's important on a lot of other vehicles, maybe not so necessary here, as it does have the this lock bolt does only go on, I think, the one way. I'm pretty sure. I haven't undone it, but either way, good practice to always make sure that you do put a mark on it there. We are using a, what is this here? We are using a T40 bolt here. So let's go ahead and get this T40 socket undone, get this bolt undone. So make sure you stay nice and straight in there. We don't want to go ahead and round that out at all. Look, see, I already just slipped once right there. Make sure that thing's in there straight and give it a little bit of pressure. And let's go ahead and pull that out. Get that thing undone. And then once we remove the bolt, what should happen is the steering shaft should collapse upwards if we give it a push. So let's go ahead and just get this bolt here, and let's just see what happens here. So there we go. That's undone. We should be able to just, sorry about the camera. And you should be able to work this off. A little bit firm. I may need two hands. I may need to get in front of the camera, but it does look like it's coming off. I just need to keep working it essentially. Let's get two hands on this guy. It should be coming, but it's definitely fighting me a little bit. Close. If it is tight, you can always put a little bit of a chisel in there and just spread that, but I would be ever so cautious if you were to do that. You could have sprayed a little bit of lube on there as well to help it out. And maybe should have done that, but there we go. It came off anyways. And we'll just make sure that we see that this isn't moving. It doesn't even feel like it wants to, because we have it strapped with the steering wheel, and there's that channel there where the bolt goes and passes through, so we'll try not to disturb that. Now this wouldn't move unless we were to turn the steering or turn the wheels. So don't turn your wheels either which way for any reason. All right, so next you'll need to find a way to jack up the motor. Of course, I'm using a stand here, and you're going to want to be very careful. Obviously, we're not wanting to push up directly underneath the oil pan, and then definitely not with a jack. You don't want to damage, get your oil pickup in there. So what you want to try and do is go along the edges and the corners. I've got a block to displace the pressure basically between this corner and that corner, and we're going to go ahead and lift it up. Basically, we're lifting it high enough so we can get out that mount up there, and then we can go ahead and undo the bracket. So let's see, let's go ahead and let's just slowly lift this up. Obviously, being on the hoist, I don't want to lift the car off the hoist, so we want to go cautiously here and just sort of by feel, and we're watching that it's not coming off of the hoist, and I can feel that we're almost off the top of that stud there. Let's just go a little bit more here, and we should be pretty close there. All right, so I was go ahead and just lifting it up there. I had someone walk in, so we just kind of restart here. So we're gonna go ahead and keep this going up here slightly, and let's reach up there, and I can feel the stud is just about off, so let's just give it just a little bit more here, And I think that's out. Is the mount coming out? Not quite. Let's just go make sure. Still firmly on the hoist here. And let's just give it a little bit more. There we go. And there we go. Mount came out. That's what she looks like there. I don't think there's an orientation for left or right, but I may mark it anyways. Just make sure which side was facing in or out. Yeah, there we go. Now that we have that out, I will actually take a little bit of pressure off of this because I don't think it needs to be jacked up like that. So let's just take the pressure down here a little bit, and we're gonna start working on the bolts for the bracket there. All right, so we're on the passenger side manifold here now. We're ready to take it off. So I've heard a lot about this nut here up in behind the AC line. I had a quick look at it and actually solved this here really quickly. So it actually looks to be quite easy. I'm not sure why other people had a hard time. Maybe theirs were seized or whatever it is, I don't know. But sorry, we're going handheld here, so it's gonna be quite shaky. So I'll just sort of get up in here and see what I can do. So what I've done is I've reached up and come from the top side, and what I have here, what I have here is a 15 ratchet wrench. So I've just slipped it up on top of the manifold here. Try and do this with one hand while we're recording, and put it on, and of course I'm pulling backwards, and essentially there we go. I've already cracked it loose, and I can just keep working this back all the way. Sorry, I know I'm shaky crazy here. So anyways, so I will undo that here, and literally this bolt will have taken me, you know, literally maybe 90 seconds to undo. Really all the other ones on this side, except for maybe, sorry, kind of dark, maybe this one here, but I think I'll use 1 or 2 swivels, and I'll just come from basically this way, or I'll use a wrench if I need to. I mean, really none of these other ones should be a problem at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those going here. All right, so I went ahead and got that bolt behind the AC line there, just like I'd mentioned. You know, being in a shop, I mean, I probably, to tell you honest truth, I probably would have just, you know, if I had trouble with it, I would have probably evac the AC system and just quickly popped this line off here. Luckily, I was able to solve it quite easily. You know, it maybe took me, you know, maybe a little longer than I said. You know, just arm was getting sore. Probably took me maybe 3 or 4 minutes to get that bolt off. That was no big deal there. So literally all these other ones shouldn't be a concern. What I'm using here is a 1/2 inch swivel to a 1/2 inch 15 swivel impact. And I'm just gonna go ahead basically and place it on all of these. The bottom row should not be a problem at all. Those should basically all come undone very easily. The middle top 2 I will be able to get on here as well. The front 15, we already dealt with that with the ratchet wrench, and that is also going to work for the rear one as well. So as you can see, I've already slipped it up there over top. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just my right hand, but I will place it up in between the body right there. I can, sorry the shakiness, I can reach up here, and I have enough sweep right here as well with this 15 ratchet wrench that I can undo that one and basically get it all the way done. Take you a few minutes to get that one undone as well. And then just some quick work with the air gun, and boom, I mean, this manifold's off in maybe, I don't know, you know, 10 or 15 minutes essentially. All right, so we're going to quickly remove all the O2 sensors. So you'll probably you'll need a O2 sensor socket, something like this. You can use a wrench, but just not quite as good. Generally, these are pretty tight. I already cracked them both loose already. I just put them on the ground, put my foot over top of them, and was able to pull them out pretty hard. So no problem. So let's just go ahead and crack these out and make sure that they're going to come out. So feel the threads are already, a little bit stiff coming out, which kind of sucks. If you feel like that's the case, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to work it maybe in and out as to not wreck the threads on your O2. So you can kind of go back and forth a few times. This one already feels kind of ugly, but I think it's going to come out fine. Just got to keep, there we go. I think this one's going to be okay now. Got to be cautious with that. Don't want to damage the O2 thread. Not that you have much of a choice. I mean, it's either going to come out or it's not. So just fight with this one here just for a second. I think that's all right. So yeah, I mean, actually my bottom thread here actually does look a little bit damaged. So I'm going to try and clean that up there a little bit before I install it into my header. Don't want to wreck that very much, or wreck that at all. So if we do get it cleaned up, the one thing I would say, you can go ahead and you can put a little bit of anti-seize here. Make sure you don't get it onto the end of the sensor there. And then when you're installing them, just lightly snug these down. I see a lot of people cranking them down. It really doesn't need that, just a light application. Oh, actually one thing I will extend, we'll put on the extenders there at the same time. Wrong end, so we'll clip that in there, and then we'll fish it up, get that front one connected, and then strap it down, and we'll have a look when I'm done. Thanks. All right, thought I'd just show you here. So there's my O2. The threads were damaged a little bit on the way out. Goes to show you. I mean, it must have been installed like that from the dealer. Cars doesn't have that many kilometers on it. So what I did was I grabbed a thread file, and we used 1.5 thread pitch there, and then basically just filed the threads. I put it back into this one, which is not the one it came out of, and it screws in perfectly good. So at least we save that there, no damaged threads. For a second I was thinking maybe I was going to have to replace this, but looks pretty good. So let's have a quick look at the headers here. So got them laid out on the bench here. I did get the mid pipe with them as well. Of course, we'll need that to connect to the catback. We got the bolts, instruction manual. We also got the O2 extenders. Of course, the clamps, to get it all together. Having a look over these things, they look to be a very good construction. All the welds seem really nice. All the pipes were bent very smoothly. All the flanges looked great. Everything looked to be of really good quality. Even inside the ports here, I can't really see it there, but they're not ported, but they're nicely cleaned up inside there. So should be flowing quite well. As for the shipping, luckily they came well packaged. I had no dents or dings or anything on there, so they look pretty good. Have it here on the website, MBRP. They do have the same instruction manuals, or in case you get caught up or need something that you can't find. It does come with one, but there is another one. Next thing I'd like to mention here as well, I did buy all this stuff from Hell Horse Performance. Those guys were really good to deal with. They're not no sponsoring or anything like that. Just customer to consumer. Just give me my feedback that they were great to deal with. So no problem there. Give them a shout out if you need anything. So that's that. Let's go ahead and let's get going on this install. So the fit was pretty good. Just go ahead and lift them up into position there. Depending if you're using any studs or bolts, just get it up in there. The bottom row is quite easily accessible, so just go ahead, get it up there, get them the bolts and nuts in there, and start getting them all in position and getting ready to tighten down. All right, so got this manifold, or sorry, I got this header installed here. So what I wanted to show was that I actually did use as many of the factory studs as you can. I don't know, maybe I'll end up by regretting it. I'm not sure, maybe someone else can let me know. But I feel like the factory studs are best whenever used possible. They do have the lock nuts on there, and they're probably of good quality, I would assume. So the ones that I didn't do, so basically here, so I went bolt on this one. This one here is going to be stud and stud up top. The next one is going to be stud with bolt up top, and then the very front one is stud and stud. So yeah, pretty tricky to tighten it up. Obviously the bottom is really simple. I just socket and ratchet. Obviously for these three, this one here we use a ratchet wrench, and then basically for all the top ones, for the most part, is just a wrench. I got that of course from up top. It's not too bad. I mean, it's definitely tricky to get it from up top, but yeah, it's not too bad. So we'll go ahead and get that tightened up and get the bracket that we removed and get the mount installed, and then we'll move on to the next side. So we'll see you for the next side here on the drivers. So after the header was done there, I did slip the mid pipe onto the end. There's nothing special about that. Put the clamp on there, obviously, and got that into position. Get ready for the catback. Installed that O2 sensor, and zip tied it. Made sure that's secure there as well. Reinstalled the starter, the bracket, and the mount. Basically, just the opposite of the removal. Just put it all back in with the same bolts. Obviously, if you got this far, going back in shouldn't be a problem on any of that stuff there. And now we'll move on to the driver's side. So now we're going to start here on the driver's side. First, we are going to actually need to remove the strut brace. So we'll just remove the nuts on either side there. And then, of course, I didn't realize here, sorry, I thought I could slip this out here, but the positive cable will also need to be removed. You can see me kind of fighting with there for a second, and then I go back and then remove that positive cable. It makes it much simpler. Not sure why I was trying to just get it out there. It only takes 2 seconds to undo the cable there, so make sure you undo the positive cable as well. And then, yeah, let's just remove that brace. Next, we're going to need to gain some access here to this side of the manifold, so we're going to pull the factory airbox out,
undo the bolt there. I'm just unclipping the mass air sensor and unclipping the air box and just wiggling out. Mine fought there for a second. Pull that away. Of course, we're going to remove the air filter, and then next there's a bolt for the bottom of the air box assembly. We'll undo the bolt for that, and then basically just pull it out, and then we're free. We have more space here for this driver's side. So basically, just like I had mentioned earlier, for the upper engine mount bolts and for the motor mount nut, we can gain access to all of that from basically up here. Got a long extension there, and just working down there and firing both of those loose before we go to the bottom and jack it up to to remove it, just like we did on the passenger side.
So we're here continuing on the driver's side exhaust manifold. So like I already showed, I undid the nut for the engine mount bracket from above. And I did the 2 bolts for the engine mount themselves also from above. And now we're below, exactly basically just like the other side. We're gonna undo the 4 bolts for the bracket, and basically I've already got it sort of jacked up a little bit already. I went ahead and undid the O2 sensor here, and just the one just at the back here. We already undid that one as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's get this bracket undone. So I'm doing most of this same thing basically by air, just trying to get in where I can, just around the outsides, and get it on here. 413s on this side, no ground strap on the other side. Well, that one was pretty tight. And let's go on this one as well. See if we can get it with this extension here. Nice, that came out quite easily. And we'll go take the other 2 from the front side here. I can see them basically from the other side of the subframe right here. Pretty easily, and same with this one right here. That doesn't fall. There we go. And those are basically both undone. So we'll just collect the bolts and take the bracket out of here. And yeah, that's it. And the engine mount, actually may as well grab that at the same time. And they're free and clear, ready to go. All right, sorry for the shakiness here again. We're gonna go handheld. So basically you can see most of the studs for the exhaust right there. So what I did was the front top 2, not these 2, but the 2 above it right there. I've already undone those from the top side. They were really easy to get to from up there. It looks like basically the 4 across the bottom and the other 3 across the top should be quite easily done with a ratchet and a swivel from the bottom side. As you can see, we can also sort of peek through here. There's those top 2, those will be easily accessible. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start knocking all those out right now. So I just did a quick test fit here, and it looks like these are the studs that I'm going to leave in. So obviously, as you can see, the front 4, this one bottom one, and these 3, I will be using the bolts. Same like the other side. Hopefully I don't regret it. I think it's a good idea. Well, I guess only time will tell. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this one installed here. The one thing I did do as well, it didn't come with a new gasket. I am reusing the factory gasket, as it still looks to be in pretty good shape. My car's not that old. Would be nice to put a new one, but I think I'm gonna be okay with these used ones. It sounds like quite a few people do it. One thing I will give it a good quick little wire brush and wipe down. You know, make sure it's nice and clean, and reinstall it. All right, well, there she is installed. Let's see, so let's cap this off here. So obviously you've got the O2 sensor back in. I got it pinned here. I cut off the little strap that was just right over here and just cut the end off and re-wrapped a zip tie through there. Put a double loop there and just reconnected it back there. So basically that's what that looks like there. No big deal. I got the mount back in, of course. And then, so what I did, like I said, undoing it was all of them from the bottom floor from underneath. The top ones, tightening it up. I got all of those from the top side with a wrench, a ratchet wrench. I would say the last two bolts on the driver's side, pretty tricky to get installed, but just keep working at it and you will get it. And that's just basically from there. I got it sat back down. We're going to lower the vehicle down and get the, we're gonna get the two motor mount bolts and nut from the top side. And then we're basically done for the most part. All right, so here we are, basically all finished. So, you know, I went to the top, you know, finished tightening up the motor mounts and got all that done. You saw how that all came apart, so no big deal there. So we got the mid pipe slipped on there, you know, pretty straightforward. Put the pipe on there and got the clamp down. You can kind of see how I have the O2 rooted there, and basically the same thing with this mid pipe. Got that slipped on there, and the O2 basically rooted in there. One thing I do want to mention, for the rear extenders for the O2, I'll drop a picture in there. They didn't quite fit. They had a different sort of pin alignment. I shouldn't say pin alignment. The tabs were slightly different, so I had to trim it off with a razor blade, but no big deal there. So got the mid pipe installed there. There's our H pipe. We got that all installed there. The one thing right at this junction here, the factory, oh, I shouldn't say factory, the original H pipe there, it's meant to fit with the factory header, so it shrinks down to, I guess, 2.5 or 2 1/4. So you do have to cut 3 inches off of that piece of the pipe there. So we got that set up there, and then here we go. So I got the race catback, and I have options for the black pipes. Basically, all the outside of my car is basically all blacked out anyway, so sort of like the black pack, I guess, but I had to do it. It didn't come like that. So yeah, there we go. So have a look there. That one's all in there as well. Of course, we got it just bolted back up there, just like we did when we took it apart, and bolted up in there as well. And then same thing on that side, bolted in up there. And yeah, basically there you have it. Full install. MBRP long tube headers and H pipe and catback exhaust. So let's set this camera up here and let's do a cold start.